Welcome to the podcast for real life heroines. I'm your host, Susanna Liller. In each episode, I talk with women who dare to be themselves, real heroines who take risks, both big and small. They try new things, challenge themselves, and take leaps into the unknown. Together, we'll hear stories of women stepping into courage, finding and using their voice, and realizing the gifts they were born to give. Let's begin. Hello, good morning. Welcome to the podcast for real life heroines, where I get to speak with women who have taken the leap in their lives and gone across a threshold into the unknown. And I call that being a heroine, but not everybody calls that being a heroine. So we're going to have to see what Wendy Ulmer, who is my guest this morning. Welcome, Wendy.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
We're going to talk about what Wendy sees as, or what she thinks about being a heroine, which I think differs from what I think. But first, let me just say a few things. Let me introduce her to you. Wendy is an award-winning author, and she has really, that's many awards, multi-award winning author. One received notably from the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators. She is published, of course, has written several books. She owns her own publishing company called Woolly Moon Books. And I'm wondering, looking up, researching you, Wendy, why did Al Roker from the Today Show come visit you?
They actually came down to Sagadahoc Bay on one of their summer jaunts that they did at that summer. And I just picked up my book and decided to go down and see if there was any way I could get them to do it. So I met Al Roker and Craig Melvin, yeah, and
Good
sent books back with them.
Good for you. So writers listening to that, that takes chutzpah, yes. And so definitely a characteristic of a heroine. Yeah. Wonderful. So you're also a former public school music teacher and English teacher, 21 years teaching experience doing that. Before that, you were a registered music therapist and worked in both clinical and public school settings. So those of you who have listened to other podcasts I've done with heroines, you will note that there are some major life leaps in that bio that I just read to you. So for me, when there is a leap like that, it designates someone as a heroine. But again, more on that later when we talk about what Wendy sees herself as. Um, you went to Lebanon Valley College, got your music education, BS, and you're an organist. And we talked about that, like on a big, big organ.
It was at one time, yes.
And so I think that so much of that, the interest in that was that your dad played the organ and had a big organ in your home, right?
Yeah. A theater organ.
That's amazing.
Yes.
Imagine listeners growing up with a big, huge theater organ, like the kind that they play in football stadiums and
No, they usually use them in the theaters, especially for the silent movies, because it
right.
has drums and bells and whistles as well as the pipes. And that's how they accompanied the silent movies.
And
Yeah.
that's what you learned on and played and can still play, but not now, right?
Not now, no.
No.
My shoulders gave out, so I don't do it anymore.
So 10 books you've written, including the Journals of Anterg. Am I pronouncing that right?
Anterg, yeah.
Anterg, which was inspired by a village in Pennsylvania where you grew up, which is Moravian. Am I
No,
right?
well, that was the church we went to. The
Okay.
town is called Mount Gretna.
Okay. So that kind of landscape inspired the books, and we'll talk about those. And but
Okay.
now you live on a Rousick Island
Yep.
in near Bath in Maine, and your bio reads where she can be found combing the beach for treasures or roaming through the woods looking for dragons. So, Wendy, you and I both share an affinity for dragons. And so because I knew, of course, this, and I have a couple dragons that I'd like to show people. And I have this little one, but I wonder if do you have any near you? Could show us one or two?
I can. I can show you now, or if you want to know more about the call, they were instrumental in making the call.
Okay, we will
Okay.
wait. We will wait because also about Wendy, she has, okay, I cannot compete with this. A 5-foot dragon that's sitting right in there in the room with you, which is very impressive. So, more on that later. So, Wendy, why don't we just start? Because this is the premise for all my work and the talk on the podcast about real life heroines. My um, my whole thesis that runs through this is that in order to grow and evolve in our lives, we receive calls, either internal or sometimes they come and jump on us from external causes. And it's all about, do we respond to them or do we refuse them? And if we respond and say, yes, okay, I've been feeling this, or I'm going to react to this in a positive way, um, we go over some sort of threshold, imaginary threshold, but sometimes it's a real threshold, like you're leaving your house or your marriage or whatever. Um, but in doing so, in following that call, we do grow. We're challenged and the whole journey happens. And so I already said that there obviously are threshold crossings in your life. What's one big leap into the unknown that you've made in your career?
Other than what we're doing right now.
I know. Okay, let's just say, note that this was not something that Wendy readily jumped into for sure. So let's just note that this is not her thing. Okay, but she graciously agreed to talk to me.
Okay, so after both my parents passed, they lent my sisters and I some money. And I went down to Reed State Park one time and I was sitting on the rocks and I clearly heard my mother's voice say, "Go west,
Mm,
go west."
mm.
Now, my parents had gone out west several times, but I heard "go west." I was getting my master's at Lesley at the time, and I got a flyer in the mail saying there would be a 10-day um, conference or whatever in Santa Fe, New Mexico, studying the three cultures of the Hispanic, the Native, and the Caucasian. And I decided to go. And I decided to drive myself out in my stick shift pickup truck.
Oh no.
It was dark green. When I got to the mountains in West Virginia, I didn't understand downshifting so well to get up the mountain. So I started saying, "Run, Forrest, run, run, Forrest, run." So he became Forrest. And I drove all the way out. We stayed at St. John's College in Santa Fe. I had some life changing experiences, absolutely life changing experiences. And then after that, I drove to Flagstaff, Arizona and had a book signing. And then I drove home over the Rocky Mountains all the way back to Maine. And I
Wow.
called it my courage quest.
Yeah. Huh. And definitely going on a journey into the unknown, and it altered your life. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah.
there's so your mother was intuitive and so are you. And when your dad passed, what's the story around you had written a story about him and your mom didn't want you to share it with people because she knew.
Yeah. Yeah. So when my father passed, I was in Maine, and on the drive down, I wrote this story because I didn't want the little ones to forget him. I wanted them to understand his love of cowboys and his love for them. And I wrote this story called Poppy's Campfire. And when I got down there, um, my husband at the time said, "You have to read it to your mom and your sisters." And I was like, "No." And he said, "You must." And so I did. And then they wanted it at the service, which was there's talking about a leap. There was
Yeah,
a
I'm
leap.
I'm cataloging them in my
You
head.
know, I'm sorry, like, how am I going to stand up in front of this church full of people that I know and read this story about my dad? And somehow I did it. I'm not sure how, but afterwards people came up and they were like, "Could we have a copy? Could we have a copy?" And my mom said no. And I was like, she's the most generous person in the world. She just lost the love of her life and she's saying no. And then she said, "Wendy's a writer. She might do something with it." At that point in time, I had had 2 magazine articles. That was it. Had no plans to be a book author at all.
Yeah.
And
And so is that the book that got picked up off the slush pile?
that's the one.
So explain what a slush pile is, please.
A slush pile is when you send a manuscript in that has not been requested and has not been sent in by an agent. You just throw it out there and hope. And I sent it, I think it was rejected 3 or 4 times. And then I sent it to Arizona to a company that only made cowboy driven books. And even though my cowboy is in the middle of the city, everything in the book is as if he's a cowboy. And they picked it up.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
called Now It's a Campfire for Cowboy Billy.
right.
Right.
Okay.
So just listen to the story of that book. I mean, your mother urging you to, no, just hold on to it. You're a writer. You're not thinking of yourself as a writer. And then you try to send it out, you get rejected, you persevere, you just decide to throw it, and it gets on a slush pile. And my understanding of slush piles is that they're big and but it got, somebody said, oh, look at this. I mean, somehow it got chosen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now now I'm going to go on the trajectory where I asked you, okay, about your writing routine. Are you one of those people? And I think Stephen King is like this, that, he goes first thing in the morning and starts writing. And what did you tell me when I said, well, what's your discipline around writing?
I walk. I
Right.
walk.
You
I
walk.
I have it's terrible. I have no set discipline where this many hours a day, this many words a day, this many pages a day. I know a lot of them do. A lot of authors do. I do not have anything like that. And it's just like, well, as I talked before, I get downloads. Like when my mother told me go west, that was a download. Okay. I don't know, somewhere in the universe, it comes to me. Sometimes characters come to me that I don't even know belong in the book I'm writing. I mean, it's crazy. I admit it's crazy. And
It's crazy. And what a gift. What a gift.
I always say it's a gift. I'm a conduit. I am not writing these. I am just being used by the universe or whatever you want to call it to get a story out to help kids. Yeah.
But what I would say to you, Wendy, is that number one, you have to be open to that,
Mhm.
right? And you have to walk, you have to be out there. I know nature is very important to you, and you have to be in it. I mean, I don't know if you were in some different environment, maybe the channel wouldn't happen.
I'd probably go to the zoo. I'd go somewhere where I could be and there's beautiful parks, but I'm lucky I have 5 acres of woods I can walk on, and the river's right here.
Right.
I'm very blessed that way. Yeah.
So when I first noted, we should say that my children, I'm pretty sure, were your students when you were teaching in the Bath school system, but maybe not. But certainly I heard your name. But what got me to stop at the window of our local, very wonderful bookstore in Bath was seeing 3 books, the first one being called The Call, where here I am immersed in learning about the hero heroine's journey and learning about the call. And there, right in my own bookstore, is this book called The Call. And this is your trilogy that you wrote. That's The Call. What was
Dragons.
the Dragons and the Sword.
Right.
Right. Right. And so this was your first, I think, middle school fantasy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Great.
I think you told me that that was a big leap for you.
Had 5 picture books, and I didn't even know if I could write a middle grade, much less a trilogy. So do you want to know how that happened?
Yes, I would love to know. And so
Okay,
would our
so
listeners love to
my
know.
husband and I were at a restaurant with another couple in Camden, Maine called the Atlantica. It's not there anymore, but it was a great restaurant on the water. I don't eat a whole lot, so they all ordered appetizers. I did not order an appetizer. The waiter came out, had the 4 plates with 4 lids, put them all down and put one in front of me. And I said, I'm sorry, I think this is a mistake. And he said, no, it says comes to you right here. And so my friend said, well, if you don't like it, we'll take it for you. I said, oh, okay. So I lifted the lid off, and underneath there was a
Oh,
dragon.
how can that be? Who gave that to you?
There he is. You can see him that better that way.
Yeah.
So there he is. And I was like thrilled. And he had been made in a pottery shop there in Camden. So I decided he was an Atlantica dragon.
But wait, Wendy. So
Yes.
how did the dragon get to be who put him there?
My friend told my husband, you have to buy this for Wendy. She loves dragons.
Ah.
And she's pretty forceful. And she went and asked the restaurant people, could you please deliver this as her appetizer?
That is great. That's great. Okay, so you called him the Atlantica dragon.
An Atlantica dragon. So about a couple months later, I get a package from the same friend. And in that package is a little baby dragon.
Oh.
Okay. And when you read the description of the dragon coming out of the egg, it is exactly this one. But the weird thing was his head comes off
Oh,
and you see the sword.
I do see the sword. It came that way?
It came that way. And at the time I got him, there was a little sticker in the bottom that said Ebu. So I decided his name was Ebu. Ebu was an Atlantic dragon. And then I was like, well, there could be a story there maybe, but where would I set it? Where I grew up. So I took the word Gretna from where I grew up and turned it around, and it became Anterg.
Oh my gosh.
And and then we get to that point where I don't know where it comes from.
Yeah. Yeah, but you paid attention to it's almost like clues were coming to you and you took a hold of them and then
Right.
they developed into a story.
Yeah.
Yeah, how wonderful.
It was a lot of fun, and it's a lot of fun doing school visits with the kids with those books.
Right,
Yeah, it's a
right.
lot of
And I think, and maybe you decided against it, but aren't you writing another series that has to do with, should I even say? Can I say? Do
yeah.
you want to say?
Okay, I'm writing a 4 book series that's based on the fairies that live around Anterg, and it's called The Kittywinks of Knotwood Hollow.
So it's related. There are similar
It's
characters.
it's related in the fact that the fairies see and Terg, but they only interact with one or two, and none of the characters are from the trilogy. They're just around there.
It's that same landscape and world.
Exactly.
So
Yes, the same world.
you're doing what fantasy writers do, you're world building,
Yeah.
which is amazing. So, and you're not disciplined about when you write, you just go. Do you walk every day?
Every day.
Every
I
day
walk at least 3,000 steps before breakfast every day. And then when
before
I,
breakfast.
before breakfast, and then when I get stuck on something in my writing, I walk some more. I just keep walking.
Do you keep, I'm thinking of Mary Oliver, the poet who always had her notebook. Do you have a notebook to jot down things as they come to you while you're walking?
I handwrite all my stories first. I handwrite them in a notebook.
Oh,
Okay. So when I'm writing, when I'm walking, I have a little stack of paper on my desk. And if something comes to me, I run to my desk and write it down quick and stick it in that notebook and then keep walking. Yeah.
so this is interesting. You handwrite them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which creates another step for you, but you must find your creativity works better when you're handwriting them. Yeah.
Yeah. And I often, across the way, will have neighbors who are I'm very close to, and they let me go over and sit out at their picnic table because it looks out over the river. And I'll sit over there and write.
Right. You know, it reminds me, and I'm not going to recall her name, famous writer around the turn of the century, Western Massachusetts, wrote, oh, I can't think, but she hand wrote everything. But where she was different from you is that she wrote in bed first thing. Who was this? Do you know who I'm talking about?
I'm not sure.
Okay. But anyways, I'll put it in the show notes if I think of the name. Very famous, and I can't even think of the title of a book. At any rate, she would write, she'd put her pages on the floor next to the bed. Her maid would come and pick them up and go type them. So
Oh my.
maybe you could
Where
add
do I get one of those?
just, you might want to think about it.
Well,
So,
actually, though, when I type them in, I edit.
oh.
My very first edit is when I'm typing them in. So, it serves a purpose.
Well, I'm going to want to talk to you about this book next, The Marsh. Just
Okay.
how many pages of handwritten do you think?
Oh gosh.
You probably don't remember.
Okay, here's the problem with trying to figure that. I started writing that one almost 40 years ago.
Oh,
When I first moved, I lived in Woolwich, and I started writing this story. And I think I think this book was a book to help me deal with things that I didn't know how to deal with.
okay.
So I grew up in the 60s, right? Um, Believe it or not, I did no drugs. I didn't drink. I'm allergic to alcohol. I was not a protester, but deep inside, I can't stand violence. I never could stand violence. And now I'm married to a Vietnam veteran.
Uh,
Okay. And so this whole story came in little pieces to me over the years about a mother whose husband dies in Vietnam, and she's so angry she can't relate to the boy, and the boy needs to solve a mystery so they don't lose their land, and on and on. And it just I think it was helping me deal with things, dealing with bullying in schools, dealing with the kids that are not treated right, and it all wove together.
oh. I so I particularly love it because I live in Woolwich and I live near a marsh, and um, I can so see on a daily basis what you talk about here. But I was taken by the fact that unlike your, for example, wonderful book, A is Not for Fox,
My silly book.
wonderfully silly book where everything doesn't start with the letter that you're talking about. But it is really adult themes, bullying, child abuse, um, all the hard things, what you talked about, the father having been in Vietnam, and so he was so angry, the mother's angry because she lost her husband, all of that in this wonderful little mystery. It's a beautiful book. And so what you wrote when you so kindly gave me a copy was to Susanna, open your heart box. So I learned about what the heart box is, and it sounds like that's the thing this book helped, and the writing of it helped you open for you. And I
Right.
wonder if you could explain what the heart box is.
So the heart box is that place deep inside of you where you put feelings and memories that you don't want to look at,
Yeah.
that you don't want to deal with. And the problem is the more you stuff the heart box, eventually it'll bust. It'll break open and you have to deal with it. And I think you're right. I think I did write that to empty my heart box, of things. The interesting thing is the old lady who introduces the young girl to it. Neither of those characters were in the book at the beginning.
Uh,
They were downloads.
hmm.
Were downloads, and
Yeah.
they made the book.
Yeah, that old lady is Ms. May,
Ms.
and
May,
yeah, who liked licorice.
yeah,
And people, the kids say, oh, they think she's a witch or something. And
yeah,
yeah, and she's just an old barefoot lady who lives in the little cabin in the woods and has a lot of wisdom that she shares. Well, and the mystery is great. It's just a wonderful little book, The Marsh,
thank you.
and written for
Middle grade on up.
grade. Yeah,
Yeah, although like I think I told you, I get emails from social workers and veterans
yeah,
who
yeah.
read it.
I bet you do.
Yeah,
So, Wendy, you who writes about heroines and like the little girl in the marsh is certainly a heroine. And when I say, well, you obviously are, look at the what you've done and just, going into the Today Show and saying, here, what about my book? That's a heroic thing to do. So tell me, and it's okay, I can accept feedback about this. What doesn't set right hearing yourself called a heroine?
I think it's more the fact that I'm not a person who's excited about labels and
Yeah,
boxes.
yeah,
Okay, because you can put a label on a box and then it's hard for anybody to see that you're anything other than what's in that box.
right,
And so I'm a brave adventurer. That's what I am. I'm not a heroine. I'm a brave adventurer. Every one of those crazy things I do takes bravery on my part because I'm scared to death to do it.
right,
And I love the adventure of seeing if I can do it, you know?
right.
So
So starting with doing this podcast with me, the reading your story at your dad's funeral, going to Santa Fe, starting to write. I mean, we didn't even talk about how teaching you have to be very, very brave. But there was a student who said something to you about you're not out of the
yeah,
box. What did they say?
they said, don't worry, Mrs. Ulmer, you're not out of the box. You were never in it.
Okay,
And
that's
I love
great.
it.
That's great. Well, I would encourage people to just maybe add heroin as a, I don't know, brave adventurer, heroine. I mean, because what I try to do is have people see themselves as the main character in their most amazing adventure. And in that way, maybe you can think of yourself as a heroine, like a Anne of Green Gables or Joe Marsh. And, you know, because I think that people tend to go, oh, they're in a book, or oh, that Wendy Ulmer, she's doing all those things, but that's not me. But I want to say absolutely everybody can call themselves the heroine in their own story or the main character. So that's my spiel.
Good try.
Thanks.
I'll be a
So,
brave adventurer.
so right now that 5-foot dragon's looking at you as we're talking.
Yeah, he has his sunglasses on.
And what's his name again?
Ord, O-R-D,
B.
Ord.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
Well, I have to let you go, and I'm wondering if I have all the questions that I wanted to ask. I think that I've asked them. Is there anything that you wanted to add before I bring us to a close?
I just encourage people to listen to their downloads and to open their heart box.
Oh, that's so good. And so now I'm going to poke that a little farther. So what would you say to them? How do I get a download, Wendy? How do I find that kind of inspiration in my life?
You have to be willing to just let go.
Mhm.
Like go sit somewhere and don't think about what you have to do at the house or something like that. I just let go. And I know this is true of other creatives. When you go to that place, you aren't even cognizant of here. You're somewhere else. I even had a friend who would watch me write, and then she'd say afterwards, "Welcome back. I knew when you were gone."
Hmm.
Okay.
Hmm.
So when you got to be willing to go there, and if you're willing to go there, it'll come to you. And if you don't take it, it'll go to somebody else. And 3 years later, you'll see somebody say, "Well, I had that idea for that
Oh,
book,
well,
but you didn't
yes,
take it."
I have heard that. Yes, right. And you have to be writing as you go to that place. Don't you think that that's part of it, that you have
I
actually sat down and you're writing?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
on the page. Well, I am going to say thank you very much.
Thank
I'm going
you.
to tell people that if they, and all this will be in the show notes, but Wendy Ulmer, ULMER.com is your website. Woolly Moon, WOOLY Moon at gmail.com is how to reach you. And thank you.
Thank you very much.
And it's time for me to go back out into the landscape in search. I'll take my dragon with me for other heroines who might not call themselves heroines. And we'll have another interview next month. And I hope people listening got a lot, how could you not, got a lot out of our talk today and will join me again next month. Thank
Thank
you
you.
all. Yes.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the podcast for real life heroines. Your time and presence mean the world to us. If you're hungry for more inspiration and ready to craft your own heroine story, connect with Susanna outside of the show. Visit SusannaLillard.com to discover her courses and programs designed to empower you on your journey. Until next time, may your days be filled with the courage and strength of a true heroine. Stay inspired.